real quick, a lot of people have been subscribing to this channel. They're pretty new, but I figured that I'm gonna at least do something else, something nice for the people that have already been here. Most of y'all subscribe just to see the 411 PCM be used for a carbureted setup. Now, unfortunately for you guys, I'm going EFI, but I figured one more good video for you guys that are thinking about doing the carbureted swap with the 411 PCM. So the cool thing about that is that you just use a junkyard harness that you already have. And I just pulled the one that I was using for the past 3 years. So I'm gonna do a quick overview on that and show you what you need to do to get yours running the same way. If you're new and this is the first video you're watching, just go back to my channel and you'll be able to see everything I did in terms of getting the PCM tuned for that. But of course, there's a disclaimer for that: tune at your own risk. It's the same risk that we all got to take because we all run the risk of blowing these engines up. It's just how it goes. It's part of the game. It's the rule of the land. So again, just going to go over that harness real quick. I am selling the one that I just pulled, and I labeled it completely, and you'll see that in a minute. But it looks really nice. And again, it's based off of the LT1 schematic for their EFI harness. The only thing is that I pulled out a whole bunch of things out of it that it didn't need. Anything that's related to the EFI stuff, that's what I got rid of. So again, kind of just follow along, and if you're really wanting to do this, that's the way to do it. I built that one 3 years ago. It's missing some really important components, but it still ran. It still ran pretty good, actually, so check it out. All right, so I'm gonna go over this very simply with as much detail as I possibly can, just in case you wanted to build something like this. But I'm going to be going over it as if I was trying to sell it to you for simplicity's sake. Because over here, all I ever do is just be wheeling and dealing. Anyways, so check this out. This is very simple, but I'm going to start with the actual fuse box holder. If you were to build something like this, all you would need is one of these. And ironically, this is a fuel. The schematics I got for this are from lt1swap.com. They're actually for a EFI swap. Very simple, very simple. Only difference is that I cut everything that was fuel injection related, cut it out of the harness, and just kept the bare minimum. Now, that's good or bad, but really depends on you and what your goals are. Unfortunately, the way I set it up is really better set for something that's more race oriented. But for the past 3 years, with 6 pounds, 8 pounds, 10 pounds, 12.5 pounds of boost, and each stage that I went through this had no problem giving me what I needed, and it never blew up. But I'll explain why in a minute. But let's start with the fuse block holder. The two relays are pretty simple. The one that I really like is this one. This one's the fuel pump relay. So essentially what it is it's got its own circuit because it's got its own fuse. So 30 amperes for the fuel pump. So that's what this one is. Now, every eBay harness that you buy, or every one of them that you see, doesn't come with the fuel pump feed to the battery. So for pin 30 and pin, I don't remember what the other one is, pin 87. So pin 30 goes directly to the battery, pin 87 goes directly to the fuel pump. The reason why they don't really include it is for obvious reasons. A roll of a real 10 gauge copper wire costs about $50 for only 75 feet of it. And I ran out of one whole roll pretty much in about 3 vehicles that I did harnesses for. And you can see how it gets expensive, so you do have to supply that on your own, and it just makes logical sense to do it that way. So it's real simple. The fuses, so the orange wires are the constant, so 10 amperes is always on. And the reason why I went this, I'll see if maybe you want to take some notes, but the reason why I did it this way is because the actual LT1 swap has a power wire that's always constant directly, or shared with the constant 12 volts from the PCM. The issue with that is you really want it independent, its own circuit, because I noticed that 16 gauge is about what you can fit in here when you're cramming another 10 gauge wire in there. And you really want it on its own circuit. I killed a fuel pump this way because I had a 16 gauge feeding the 10 gauge and then all the way to the back in that distance. So ironically, it was a 10 gauge that was burning up because it was trying to get so much power from the smaller wire. So just get rid of all of that and run it independently through this relay. This, obviously the ground and the actual power from the PCM doesn't matter because it's just a little flick like that. That's all that controls, and then you get the 30 and 87 to bridge, and that's it. That's what makes it super simple. So what else can I talk about? The actual connectors. That right there is kind of a hit or miss with this setup, and the reason for that is because I only went with the coil connectors, and I'm sorry, I totally missed the spot. So the coil missed a segment actually. So the coils themselves are ran out for this one and this one, and this one is my accessories. So this is just extras, but in the EFI one, you would use this for like the MAF sensor or anything related to EFI. That's where it would go. Yeah, injectors and things like that. But for this setup, I use these two for my coils. And you do want to split them up that way in case something goes bad or you have a short, you know which one to start looking at. But anyways, based on the things that I used, it's not the smartest way. This, like I said, this was mostly better suited for like a drag only car, but at 10 degrees, I was completely safe. It never backfired or did anything funky like that. As long as your carburetor was at the correct AFR and it was properly tuned and you were reading the plugs, and it doesn't matter. But again, going back to that, I got the two coils, the cam sensor, the grounds. It's 3 grounds total, the engine coolant temperature sensor, and the crank sensor, and that's all I needed. If I had to do this again, I wouldn't do it this way at all. What I would do is keep the knock sensors. My engine had broken knock sensors, so that's why I didn't even bother, and I actually took them out. I don't know why. This was 3 years ago. The manifold absolute pressure sensor, keep that, even if you're not planning on doing it. So the way my tune was, it was RPM based, solely to run off of RPM. It didn't matter what the temperature was outside through the engine coolant temperature sensor. It didn't care if it had any load. It didn't care. Whatever the RPM was, that's what the ignition timing was that I was going to get to whatever I set it at. But the benefit here is, you could say it's like a log distributor, but the benefit here is that anything under boost can be tuned directly to what the engine wants. So for me, it was anything under 3,200 RPM. That was giving me, what was it giving me? It was giving me everything I wanted. So if I set it to whatever degree it needed, that's what I had it at. So anything under 3,200 RPM, it was a normal driving car. Whatever the engine wanted, that's what I gave it. Once boost hit, for me, 3,200 RPM, it was locked at a solid 10 degrees all the way to 6,500 RPM. So that's just probably what kept this whole thing from imploding. The reason why is because if you tune, I was ignoring the ignition tables for the ignition table times engine temperature. Now the reason why you don't want to do that is because you'd have to really know what you were doing. I ignored this, but you can take or add ignition timing based on whatever the engine temperature is. So the other thing is a manifold absolute pressure sensor. I did not have that either. Why is that? Well, it's very simple. It's because you can also tune that based off of load. So it'd be like a distributor that had vacuum, like it had a vacuum can in it. But based off of load and whatever, if you're doing this naturally aspirated, I recommend keeping this as well as the map sensor and the harness, and just tuning with those, and tuning those to whatever the engine wants. The other fancy thing about this computer is that it can actually, if you keep the knock sensors, you can do ignition timing tables based off of low octane fuel. For example, if you're running low octane, the cheapest gas that you can get, or if you're running very expensive 93 octane, it'll tune for that, and the ignition timing can be correct. Not aggressive, the correct timing. Obviously, when you have lower ignition or lower grade fuel, it's just safer to knock down the timing so that you don't pre-ignite or melt a piston or whatever it may be. So hopefully this is really a longer video than I wanted to make, but it's already closing in 8 minutes. But I'm sure that people want to see this because this is what they came to see originally. This is what they subscribed to, and then I'm over here throwing EFI in their face, so I apologize for that. But I thank you guys that are sticking around anyways. So here's the part number again. It's real simple. Like I said, this is going to be for sale. I'm putting it on Marketplace. It's already labeled ground. It's really simple. And then the fan, this also controls fans, and this one's the OED, but you can look at any diagram and find out what that pin is. So like I said, it's very simple. 3 grounds, crank sensor, engine coolant temperature, and the 2 coils, and it's running, And to be honest, this probably has more features than the MSD 6014, which was a standard for many, many years. And it's what made this whole thing like almost triple the price at some point in 2015, where people were saying, why would you spend more to use a carburetor? But most of this stuff I did for free, so that's really an option for people now, and I encourage people to do it if they're really going to have a drag car or really want to use a carburetor, because to be honest, the price of fuel injectors and doing all this extra wiring and extra work just to run it is it's a lot. But if you're more experienced with carburetors and you're just you just got a cammed engine, or if you want to do the blow-through stuff, I mean, people in my comment section have told me that they went that way. You're using this method, so it's real simple. And you should go back. I have videos on the actual tuning portion of this. So if you're really interested in doing that, just look back to those videos. Ask any questions you want. I'm not going to upload any of the tune files because that's idiotic to use somebody else's tune file. It really is. It literally shows you what steps to take and what you need to do, because you're going to need to tune this. You still need to find out what your engine wants in the sense of timing. Not every engine and combination is the same. Some are high mileage, some are not. Some are leaking oil, some aren't. That doesn't have anything to do with the ignition timing, but I'm just giving you an example. Tune the computer to what your engine needs and make sure you're running the highest quality octane fuel that you can run and afford. So as far as carburetors go, if I ever do another carburetor, it's going to be strictly a drag build with a turbo 400 and nothing else. But one thing, I almost forgot actually, the 4060 and the 4080, you can leave that in the harness, and what you can do is add a little TPS adapter from like an older truck, and that'll work for that. So it'll sense the TPS, and then you just add that, and I'm pretty sure that's how these transmissions run off of the map sensor for load and off of the throttle position sensor. I haven't tried that. I really want to try that, but I don't think I have the means or a project to do that on, because once you go EFI and you start doing other projects, you tend to stick with that. And I know people are thinking is like, oh well, what does he know about wiring harnesses? Is like, well, I helped a lot of friends out wire their EFI and do all that other crap, and I'm the only one that's still stuck on the Stone Ages using the carburetor stuff. But I know people are going to be really interested in seeing that, so maybe I'll do that based on a truck. I'll do this all over again and show you the process, and I'll see if I can use a 4060. I'm not a fan of the 4060, so they got a lot of issues from factory. Yes, they last a very long time, but they're a light duty transmission from factory. Narrow bands on the reverse drum. The 3/4 clutches have a big issue with them burning up. The sun shell, it's really thin, and you're supposed to be hauling a heavy ass truck and then sometimes towing, and so it's got its downfalls. So if I ever do one, they're plentiful. You can get a core for $50, so maybe I'll do that and try to rebuild it, and just so you can see this work with a 4060. But you can leave the 4060 connectors and then just repin it for a 4080 if that's what you want to do for an electronic transmission, and it works really well. I can already see it. I kind of have an idea of how this would work. So people are going to sign off and not watch this channel anymore. Hopefully I can reel them back in with that, and for sure it's going to have boost. But yeah, that'll be it. The carburetor's for sale, so who really knows? But even naturally aspirated, I'm sure people would like to see this. So thanks for watching. Any questions, let me know.